This video is going to use an example of a intelligent designer versus natural science-based information producing the same effect, and presumptions people make about this, and it being a logical fallacy. It will involve things such as natural selection versus selective breeding and eugenics, chaos, the second law of thermodynamics, and why that would be more useful. For the same reason rolling dice allows you to get a certain number rather than attempting to roll it a specific way to get a specific outcome, the better's fallacy. And why, when you play the lottery, because of its design, if you want to call it that, picking numbers on purpose doesn't work as well as just randomly selecting them. Crystalline self-assembly and order in time, space, and reality caused by the way the universe actually works, and mutation being a much more effective way of something happening rather than trying to change one chunk of DNA. The light bulb. The meme about Thomas Edison and his material selection process. All. Test every damn thing, see if anything has any useful effects, make note of every single outcome, hoard that information because that was very important to him, and it was important later as well, on every element, every material he could find, anything, and then change everything and see what happens when you do it, collecting a very large database. Well, that's intelligent design. No, this is an example of chaos. This is an example of mutation, and in this case, very much so. And this purposeful, intelligent designer designed nothing. Limestone. Lime light. Expose a gas flame to a piece of limestone. It incandesces in mostly a white light, a yellowish white light. It takes the heat and converts it to light. Incandescence. That's what an incandescent light bulb is. It takes heat and makes light out of it. The presumption at the time is look for a material that you could hit with heat and find a way to heat it up with something besides a flame. Because a flame, for all of the wastefulness of an old-style carbon filament light bulb that takes 110 years to die and still hasn't, it's still less wasteful than hitting, pointing a blowtorch at a piece of limestone. Light bulbs are more efficient than that, because they are. Watt for watt, lumen for lumen, it's better. Or is it? You can look this up. But here's the idea. Why make a light bulb? Well, electricity was already in use for other purposes. It really was. Most of you don't know that. And, well, we have to find a way to exploit it. And the one thing that was needed, the one thing this person saw, well, one of many things, was we need a light bulb. We need something that produces light. Doesn't matter if it was an exposed filament, an arc. Arc lamps are usable. We have to find something that'll work. Now, for a moment, pause the video and look at the video description below on all of the different methodologies we used and still use to make light from electricity. Electricity by itself jumping across a gap at a low wattage, or is it really low voltage, produces very little light, but it does it for a very short period of time. If you pulse these close enough together, you can't tell that they're pulsed. That means you can vary how bright it apparently is by firing a bright electrical jolt through. Faster, more of them. Larger numbers of them equal a linearly increasing amount of energy. But our eyes work off of a non-linear curve. You have to double the intensity for us to notice a change of any kind. That's how light works. Don't like it? Don't care. So, let's get back to mutation and an intelligent designer. The light bulb was not an intelligent design. It was a pure science test. Don't like it? Don't care. If you're an Ayn Rand person, don't care. Go drown. Now, here we go. Natural selection. Things just happening on their own. And look at all the animals. A lot more efficient than selection that isn't natural and using a damn boat during a flood, which would not result in this level of nearly chaotic animal production. Out of control breeding. Well, selective breeding like we use. Okay, you have dogs with bad hips who can't run. No, intelligent design is the last method on Earth that would produce the effects you see. It is also the last methodology you'd want to use to make a light bulb. Well, let's go with what we have now. That didn't work. Well, let's try a variation of it. No, let's test every blasted element and material. Let's take little tiny fibers of cotton. Okay, will electricity run through them? No. What if we hit it with heat? Oh, it turns into something electricity goes through. Okay, run electricity through it. Doesn't work. What happens? It burns up. Oh, put it in a vacuum. Oh, carbon lamp. What other elements can we do this with? In a vacuum, in air, in a specific gas. Let's make it just one gas to see what it does in the gas. Oh, look, argon works. Noble gases, neon lamps. You can make a neon flash bulb. I think it's neon gas, isn't it? There's also xenon. There are, I think, right now, at this time, for bicycles only, just for bicycles, there are about 200 completely unrelated technologies that we use for lighting the road in front of us, with colored light or white light. None of them were intentionally designed or intelligently designed. Implying things with words so you can play word games. Intelligent designs imply that you have an intention of having a certain outcome. The outcome is not predictable because you don't know what you're doing. Well, we're applying that to some entity we're going to invent that doesn't have the same inabilities we do. Wrong. That's not how we do things in the real world. I'm an omnipotent, omnipresent being if I have a cell phone and a modern human being with a satellite networks and everything, but suddenly every other human being on Earth is back in the Stone Age. I would be considered nearly a god. I would even have the power of a god, technically, in some ways. I could act like I'm causing the weather by predicting it, because I have satellites looking down. It's just technology. But do I have the ability to take a rock and turn that rock into a flower? The answer is freaking no, unless I can do teleportation and do a swap out, or just do a magic trick, which is much cheaper. See how this works? Well, there wasn't any magic trick for making lights. A lot of people were doing it at the same time, and not just one person invented a light bulb that was practical. Starting with the idea of, let's take some element, hit it with a blowtorch, see what color it puts off. Black body radiation, anybody? Absorption and emission lines. Those will be linked in the description. This is a header for you to learn, if you wish to. I've already gone through these, but you might want to look up this stuff. So let's look at this. Self-assembly and order in crystalline structures such as water forming into snowflakes. Not special ones. Well, they're all special. Yeah, but they're not all individual. There is an almost infinite array of them, but now we know that you can have two of them that look identical, that have exactly the same format. Not down to the molecular level. What that means is at the molecular level, at the lowest possible level, there is no order. There is chaos, but it does go from chaos to order. Not from order to chaos, which is the misquoted second or third law of yo-yo dynamics people keep bringing up on YouTube, trying to explain away the reality that they exist in, which is, this is mostly chaos-based. If you were to try to evolve human beings, yes, I'm going to invoke this, and try to make us mutate into something better, making better humans, yes, I'm invoking Hitler, what would be the outcome? Same thing that happened with dogs. You end up with the breeding, creating monospecies. You end up with monoculture. You end up with individuals being copied, or their characteristics being copied. And you end up with a bunch of people who are really susceptible to a particular disease. Did anybody look up the Spanish flu occurrence? Lots of people didn't die from it because there was a lot of variation. Oh, those of you out there who are religious about their, I'm using that word wrong, about your racial preferences. That doesn't work. First of all, we're not races, we're just variations. Major ones. Skin colors mostly has to do with surviving skin cancer or absorbing vitamin D. But it doesn't really affect whether or not you're smart or not. Look at Ben Carson. For both reasons. Smart in one area. Dumb in a lot of others. But I wouldn't call him dumb to his face. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. On some specific subject. But in general, no. And I don't agree with the SOB. But, okay, can we get this through our thick skulls? Speaking of thick skulls, some of us are mutated better than others. Pete, I'm better than you. Does it annoy you? Anyway, next. Statistical natural science to create a light bulb. Examine a bunch of input data. See what had a difference. Try to take advantage of that difference. Notice that if you had a low oxygen environment, it glowed better. Now we have a 100-year light bulb. That is still not the best thing on Earth. Light-emitting diodes were invented a long time ago, but not as long ago as a gas emission type light. Tesla discovered how to make fluorescent lights a long time ago. You know that, right? Right? Just wasn't practical at the time because it just wasn't. It's just easier to do the other method. Purposeful, intelligent design gives you bulldogs with bad hips and mutations that are not useful. And the other thing everybody should know about, what about Monsanto? Let's talk about that for a minute. The original method for mutating life forms was to infect them with viruses, infect them with bacterium, anything that might modify the genetics or their behavior, or force them through environmental constraints to change, torturing them into becoming something different, including blasting them with radiation. Yeah, that's so much safer. Those aren't Frankenfoods. No. Frankenfoods are when you only modify the DNA purposely. Purposeful mutation. Purposeful redesign. Trying to get a change. Finding out that you suck at it and realize you have to collect a vast amount of data. The Human Genome Project. But that's transhumanism. No, transhumanism is trying to decide that you're going to breed a blue-eyed, no, let's call them blonde-eyed, blue-haired population. And doesn't work, and you just end up with weak humans that will drop dead at the next bacterial infection. I'm an example of massive amounts of mutations. I'm able to survive something that I can't keep from getting, but I can survive it, and you wouldn't. If you don't have a large amount of variation, your species dies. Cheetahs were brought to the point that there was literally only a few individuals, and they all started looking exactly the same. There wasn't any variation. No mutation means no progress, no change, no variation, no accidents, happy ones, no change, no advancement, stagnation and death. Same thing with cultures and societies in many cases. Not all, but most. If you do not change with the times will kill you. I like having my monotheism of reality, if you want to call it. But that's not how you really survive, is it? If you want to set yourself up for failure, be stubborn and stupid. I'm going to put a bunch of stuff below that really doesn't have anything to do with this, but I'm using the creation of the light bulb for a specific reason. It's a creation story that's recorded that you can't deny, and it wasn't based on what you think it is. It was based on literally test everything, see what works, and then use it. That's literally the inventor acting like the natural environment, stressing the species so that only one makes it by creating a bottleneck. Pretty simple. And we used to do the same thing with animals. If they weren't good enough, we wouldn't let them breed. We only bred the ones that had the characteristics we liked. That's why we end up with weird-looking animals on the farm and normal-looking bunny rabbit right over there. That's what inspired this video. That and a specific characteristic of the conehead. I won't tell anybody about it because it doesn't seem to relate to it. The way my brain works doesn't work very well for a lot of things, but it works good for this. That's not something you'd intentionally create, is it? Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with all that.